palm off. Mountain back to Atlantic Ocean. Upon me hills, to Pocondre. To educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another session of Focus on Liberia, Between the Headlines. I am playing host today to talk about the incident that just happened at the speakership. I'm sure most of you guys have been following. This debacle has been going on for the last 7 months. And today we have an official election of a speaker, which is Representative Speaker Koon. I think that's his name, right, Doc?
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing an analysis in terms of what it means for Liberia, what it means for the rule of law, whether this puts an end to the debacle that's been going on for the last, 7 months. So today, to help me navigate through that, I have Dr. Jones O'Malley in the studio with me today. Doc, I know you have better knowledge on this than I do, so I'm just going to be the host, and you are in the hot seat today. So we hopefully are expecting other guests on the show. So until then, you are going to be navigating this. But again, thank you for taking the time to walk through this with me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, as I said, I think you've been following this incident that just happened. We've talked about it here several times, with Kofa being on the other side, and Representative Koon. Kofa eventually ended up stepping down, and there was an election, and Koon did get elected. I think he had a contestant, right? Was that Bilite?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So officially, I guess I can say we do have a speaker, right? Okay. So based on what you have seen so far, and maybe you can take the next 2 or 3 minutes or so to give us a brief overview for the last 7 months, what has happened until this ruling today, this decision today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Carter. A lot has been unpacked in recent past in Liberia, starting with the resignation of the lawful speaker. But before then, there have been this ongoing rumor that the speaker was set to resign on the 12th, which of course he did. And I think this news was broken by Musa Belete, and many doubted it, but I didn't doubt it for two reasons. Because Kofa succeeded to win the public sentiment That's the first thing. And he succeeded to also win a ruling from the Supreme Court that finally uh, consider him as the speaker. And at the end of the day, probably this might not have gone well down the line, but we were all crying for due process and rule of law. And I think it was his second filing in with the bill of information, and it was considered, and there was the ruling handed down in his favor that he was the legitimate speaker. So the whole war, including Liberia, well, I use the word whole war because for those of us in the diaspora, we are also part and parcel of the process.
Yeah.
So we all were happy and we said, well, we think rule of law has finally returned in our governing process in Liberia. But again, I think there were other obstacles. Apart from the rule of law, there was a challenge put before Speaker Kofa to get the necessary representatives so that he may be able to exercise his authority. And the speaker, as you know, his authority lies within the scope, the number of representatives that will come to form a quorum.
Yes, he couldn't get a quorum.
Other than that, it becomes difficult for the speaker to form a quorum. And so I tend to believe since the ruling, there were so many schools of thoughts giving their own diverse view on this ruling. But all in all, I think in nutshell, we were all happy that rule of law and due process has finally returned to the House of Representatives. So the question now was, how the speaker going to begin? Where he going to start from? How he going to get a representative back? How is he going to form a quorum? I think that was the sticky point right now. So at the end of the day, I think on one of the platforms, I even said that it was about time for Speaker Kofa to rise up and exercise his authority as a speaker. But there was the other school of thought that the executive, since the ruling was handed down, it was now the prerogative of the executive to enforce the ruling. And so this also helped me to begin some research. And my research took me down the line to find out Supreme Court have been handing down a lot of rulings since independence up to today. My question now was, is it the prerogative of the executive to enforce this particular ruling? I know the executive is clothed with a responsibility to enforce the law. I know that. And the judiciary interpret the law. But this was a specific case, a ruling handed down by the Supreme Court. You see? So I see it as piece of the iceberg. So how can the executive come in to enforce this identical ruling? So my argument was, Speaker Kofa had been given the mantle. I think it was a challenge for him now to exercise his authority as a speaker and run his office. So one of the challenges was he needed to bring in a strategy how to get the representative back and form a quorum. So I think there where the sticker point came in. And so it became a tussle there. He couldn't get these guys. Most of them were recalcitrant. They decided not to listen to him. In the first place, when the whole debacle started, their first proclamation was to have vote of no confidence in this guy. That was their first pronouncement, you see. So at the end of the day, I want to conclude that Speaker Kofa found it difficult to get the representative back so that he
Yeah.
can be able to exercise authority.
So
And
here's my yeah.
yes.
So here's my question to you. And as I said, I'm not a political guy, but I think I've followed this whole speakership debacle for quite a bit of time. And I think from the beginning, what happened was, it was they were trying to illegally remove him, right?
Mhm.
With the minority black and the majority black. I think there was some of them actually having meetings at some hotel or whatever that room was, right? And like you said, they never had the numbers. Uh, some, then Dennis, welcome. I was quarterbacking for you, and they never had the right numbers to get rid of Speaker Kofa, right? So technically, here's the point that I'm trying to get to here, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So technically, they hijacked the whole speakership, right? Because he himself, the Kofa himself, was trying to get the right number of representatives to have a quorum, but he couldn't because some of them defected. What we were told is that some of them were paid off, right? So we remain in that quagmire until the Supreme Court came in and handed down a ruling saying this is the legitimate speaker, right? However, even though the ruling was in favor of Speaker Kofa, he did not have the number to have the quorum, right? So technically, regardless of the ruling, we were still in a quagmire, right? Until he himself ended up resigning. Then, technically, the current speaker, we just had an election and he got elected. So technically, he forced this guy out. So here's my question to you. What does this mean for the country? What does the election of Koon actually mean for the speakership and the Senate and the country as a whole going forward? If this is the point here is that this is how Kofa came to power himself to get the speakership, and this is the same way Koon is, got elected. He forced himself. With the election of Koon, what does that mean for the speakership going forward? Are we going to see this thing repeat itself going forward?
Well, I will first of all say yes and no. But I first of all want to differ with your characterization that he was forced out. Yes. Maybe there are other school of thoughts may get their analysis on that, but I truly believe that Speaker Kofa wasn't forced out. I think Speaker Kofa was given the challenge to move forward, probably due to his inability to come up with strategy and get his representative back that will allow him to exercise authority as a speaker. I think there where the missing link came from. You see, because the Supreme Court has spoken. I agree with you. He was removed illegally.
Right.
All right. And those who remove him, the Supreme Court declared them illegal, including all of their activities. Right.
Correct.
So now the Supreme Court came back and said, look, you are the speaker proper. So we don't expect the Supreme Court to come back to spoon feed the speaker. I think the speaker, as a political leader, he should have taken from there with strategy and see how best he can get his representative back. But that was the missing link. So the question now is, he failed to get his representative back because trust me, if Speaker Kofa has succeeded to get the representative back to form a quorum, he wouldn't have resigned. Yeah, so I think Speaker Kofa resigned.
Right.
Yeah, I think Speaker Kofa resigned because of frustration. I want to believe.
I beg to differ on that. And it's like something was illegal from the beginning, and then you get in the middle and you want to fix it in the middle. It doesn't work that way, right? The fact that they initially trying to remove him illegally, and the Supreme Court stepped in,
yes,
and said, you are the legitimate speaker. after everyone else have defected, and all of a sudden we now, relegate, made the Supreme Court made a decision that this guy is a speaker, regardless of the fact whether he could, coalesce people around his, ambition to still remain the speaker or not. The fact remains that the initial plot from the beginning to remove him was illegal, right? This is something we've been following. We've heard that money changed hands to get people to defect. The president, I believe, was behind this as well. And here we are, right? But these were all speculation. The point here remains, the question that I think that I want to ask you is, what do we think this means going forward?
And Gabriel, let me step in also.
Yes,
because the Supreme Court did not only say you are the legitimate speaker, the Supreme Court also said, but you don't have a quorum. And there is no process already laid out to compel the rest of the people that are out to come in. So in other words, you go and sort it out on your own. The president came in and said, I'm going to recognize anyone with quorum or anyone with more numbers, right? Whether you are illegal or not, and I'm paraphrasing here, as long as you have the majority, you are the one I'm going to deal with.
Right.
So the challenge Kofa faced there is, what if Kofa was able to get a majority?
Yeah. But no.
The president's hands were going to be tied. He was going to be forced to work with him because he already said he wants to go work with quorum.
Whoever,
so if Kofa had a quorum, what would the president do? So from the time the Supreme Court did the clarification to the time to today or yesterday, Speaker Kofa could not get a quorum. And he had no process laid out to be able to compel the so-called majority bloc to come back to chambers. So what did he do? Probably there were some backdoor dealings and negotiations going on. And he probably tried his hardest, and that didn't work.
So here's my question to both of you.
So what other options did he have?
Here's my question to both of you then. Is there a process in the Constitution in terms of how to mandate people to get a quorum? Is there any process?
No. The process should be laid out in their rules, which they never did.
They don't have a rule.
The Supreme Court, the Constitution does not lay out the process to compel the others to come. So that was expected to be put in their house rules, which they never did.
Okay,
let me get out to what Mr. Jar just said. To be very frank with you and sincere with this discussion, if the speaker has succeeded to get the representatives that broke away to come into his camp, the speaker wouldn't have resigned. I don't think so. And Joseph Barker was going to be forced to work with him as judge appointed. And I agree with him. All right. So the question here now is that the Supreme Court wouldn't come down to tell those guys, go and work with Speaker Kofa. No. So I think the issue here is this. I agree with you. The genesis of this thing here, it was illegal. In the middle, it was illegal. The concluding part, it was in his favor. And we all applaud the idea. We welcome it. So that chapter is closed. The chapter that he was made illegal by the renegade is closed. And they accepted the results. So the whole Liberia sat on the fence, waiting to see what Speaker Kofa going to do. You see? So I think it was the issue of leadership and strategy. So the question now, how? You can tell me when Kofa was running to the Supreme Court, he didn't have plan B. Now, these guys together will be a problem. So this is my plan B. So where was the plan B? Like for instance, Mr. Jai is the host, is the crafter of Focus on Africa. And the board desire to move him. Or some other breakaway panelists decide to move him. They both say, oh no, Ja, you are the legitimate person. We gave you back your gavel, go back and function. You and I decide not to work with Ja. Ja will not come on the platform. So what Ja needs to do now is to come up with strategy. You got to be creative. You got to be innovative. It has to take everything to prove to the Liberian people that indeed I have the power. I have to exercise it. So I don't expect the Supreme Court to come and spoon feed this guy. I don't even expect the president to come in and spoon feed this guy. He was in a good position to put the president to the wall, but instead he resigned. So her resignation is a sign of frustration.
Okay.
But that goes back to what happened, because as even the Supreme Court hinted, this is the answer. Supreme Court solved the legal question. So the political question now remains unresolved. That is, the guys walk out, they're not coming back. And by 45, 43 members of your group saying, well, we no longer trust you to lead. So he lost that control. So that political question, he couldn't answer it, and this couldn't drag on forever. But I think resigning at this point, also made him look very, very good, because at the time that he resigned, he made the other group to know that, okay, this was the legitimate speaker, because first of all, you accepted. If you said you were the speaker all along, I'm talking to Mr. Koon, and now the Fonati resigned, and you accepted to go into an election, it means, yes,
you have
agree
acknowledged
that you are illegitimate in the first place.
Right.
I believe these were all the backdoors negotiations that went on. That I'm going to resign, but don't still hold on to this. And his thing was probably is to still keep his 45 so that they can elect him eventually. And that's what happened. But Kofa being there now saying, yes, I resign, and then by their rules and by the Constitution, the deputy speaker succeeded him. And so that's why we saw that he was the one who presided over the elections. So what that tells us is, indeed, Kofa, you were right. But I don't think Richard Koon was looking at that anymore. He was looking at the final, outcome. That is, at the end of the day, I have a group of people that are going to vote for me and make me speaker anyway. So if I'm not speaker for half a day or for 24 hours, what the heck? But, to the question that what does this mean? Really, this tells us that wherever the executive is leaning, that side wins. Because some will call it imperial presidency, some will call it
presidency.
Right. Some will call it, well, people just don't have spine, right? So wherever the president goes, everybody goes there. We saw the election in Nimba County where the executive, the president, the vice president supported one side, and that side won. So when we came here to the House, the side the president was on, because I was wondering, really, my own thing in this one was with the conflict, the two sides, Fonati group and Koon's group. So we've had the rule of law caucus for Fonati and the majority bloc, right? So what I was expecting is maybe we'll have some people defecting. Maybe we'll have some people crossing over to vote on the other side.
Now? To Koon's side or Kofa's side?
Either side.
Either side, okay.
Right. So that people will actually speak, but I was expecting more of people coming from the Koon side. And I was also hoping for a third candidate, because we already knew that the battle lines were drawn between Kofa and Koon. So if any of the faction came to power, the House will still remain divided.
Yeah. So
people will still be stuck with their guns.
That cycle.
So I was expecting somebody else, especially a female, to come up and say, wait a minute. I mean, these two men are fighting. And if we get one of them or either side in office, we're going to continue to be divided.
Yeah.
So I want to throw my hat in the race. Even if that person had 1% or 2%, that would tell me that indeed something is happening. But for people to remain on their side, and the election went on, and as we expected, the majority stay with the majority, the minority stay with the minority. And that's how the result went. And nobody really challenged the status quo. So what this means for me is things continue to be business as usual.
And it goes back to, and it's for, I hope we have good historian who can write about these things in books that kids will read about these things later on, because this is the history of Liberia that we're watching here play out right in front of us. This is how 180 years old govern itself. This is how we've been doing. This is how we continue to govern, right? Quagmire for a good 7 months, and here we are. Like you said, it just plays into the imperial presidency, and I continue to say this, and I'll say this. I think we stop having men with morals in Liberia. We don't have men that are bold anymore. Like, just because you're in Senate doesn't mean you play to the whims and of the president. Like you said, somebody could have, a third candidate could have come out of that and capitalized on that opportunity. Capitalize on that opportunity. But here we are, right back to where we started. But anyway, on Doug, do you have anything to add to that before we jump on to the next question?
Oh, just 1 minute. I don't know where this thing coming from.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the politics in Liberia now should not be a strange phenomenon to us. This thing have been around from time immemorial, maybe as far back as 1847. It's like it been taking different shape and different form. But here is my question. Here is my challenge to the rule of law caucus. I don't know what work the rule of law caucus really did, because these are a group of lawmakers who believe in rule of law and due process. So the signal they're giving me now is that the other guys on the other side, they don't believe in due process and rule of law. You see? But I think too many things are factored into this thing, to be very frank with you. Too many things are factored into these things. And one of them could be, I don't know, like Jan said, too many things might have taken place behind closed doors. No one knows. You see? But what it means for our country, it means that business as usual will continue in our society. That's what it means. Business as usual. Because what has interplay is going to come back again to bite Speaker Koon and the rest of the guy. They're going to fall apart. They're going to happen. Because this thing is the money game. So it will come to a point when Speaker Koon cannot afford to dish out the cash. They're going to go against him, and someone's going to rise up. That's why
that is the point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I think that is a good segue into the next question here. And I think this is something we've talked about over and over, and this is something I'm a big proponent of. As I always said on this show, the Constitution is a living document. As I always said on here, there will always be a group of people. There will always be that one person who find the loophole to exploit, right? Meaning there is this loophole that, the Constitution does not interpret the right way. I can take advantage of it, which has always been happening with the speakership. That's the same way Kofa came to becoming a speaker. There's the same route Koon become a speaker. And like you rightly pointed out, give it maybe tops a year or two, somebody's going to capitalize on that, right? And as Mr. Ja pointed out, regardless of his election, there is still a division. There's still a majority block, and there's still the rule of law block. That doesn't change. Nobody, there was maybe few defection, but it still remained that way, divided. So how does he govern moving forward? How does he get his quorum moving forward?
Oh, but did you watch the election results? I think it was 46 to 26.
43 to 26.
43-26.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's the issue of the number game.
Right.
It's actually not the relevancy of the law or the policy they are playing in there anymore. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it's not about the number game. So they might play the number game to force the guy into submission. And if they force them into submission, or for instance, maybe some of them will decide to boycott section.
And we're back at the same place.
When the number game comes to play, they will use it to suspend some of them. And if they continue, they're going to expel them. So it's about the number game. It's no more about the essence of the House of Representatives as we honor it over the years. I don't think so anymore. That essence has gone away. So it's not the number game. So those who will stand up against Koon, he's going to apply the number game. And if he gets the number, they're going to suspend some people who will not want to come into submission to his speakership.
But he's not there yet. He's at 43, right, Dennis? We need 49, correct?
For 49, I mean, you have the quorum, you have the majority. So if they were voting, if you go to any 43, 49 is to 10 to get a speaker out.
Yes.
Okay.
But all you need is a simple majority to pass anything you want to pass.
Yes.
Okay, which he does have.
Right. And the history of the House, especially from the last regime, was if you are speaker and the other people want something, you don't even put it on the floor. That was why, if you saw Yeke, there was a group that they used to call another caucus. That was the late Nabwislaw, Roger Doma, Representative Yeke Koluba, the late Adolph Lawrence. They were part of this caucus that was kind of trying to force things, because anytime there was something that the other side put on the floor, Buffalo Chambers would not put it on the floor, right? So that's why you saw Yeke Koluba. He was always angry. He was always insulting. He was always doing that because it's whatever they wanted to discuss, they couldn't put on the floor. So when this Holobalu started, I interviewed some of these representatives and said, why don't you go to the chambers where for 98 you have the numbers so you can vote? They said, no, if we go there, he's not going to put on the floor what we want to discuss. He's going to bring his own issue, right? So one of the tools that these guys use, which is not right, is not to listen to the other side, right? So you have the majority 43. If the 43 said, if you have a agenda and they say, all we want to discuss is how to drink palm wine, that's what they're going to discuss, right?
So you don't consult the other side at all.
Well, it shouldn't be that way, but that's what the last group complained about. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Richard Koon applied the same thing. But to your second point of the committee's appointments, the appointment of committee, I believe these are first of all, these two groups have been fighting. So what I saw there is these jobs of these committee appointments were already made. Selection were made. I saw that with Representative Koga, who's now senator in Nimba County. So he was given a committee, I think, on judiciary. But because he's now a senator, so that was the only committee that didn't have anybody today. It was not constituted because they have not probably found a replacement. So I'm not 100%, but it appears to me that all the committee heads that were appointed were all from the majority bloc.
Jesus. Because
I was expecting at least your contender, Musa Bility, or somebody else to get something.
He's not my contender.
No, I mean Richard Koon.
Yeah, right.
Richard Koon, the opponent of Richard Koon, Musa Bility, to get some committee leadership, but that didn't happen. But again, these guys who were backing him, that's why they were there.
And you
People
see,
were saying,
Dennis,
okay, they were bribed. And the second thing is people want to be committee heads. People
and
want
you
to be
see,
on this committee because they're where the money is.
yeah, you see, Dennis, this is not how democracy works. Yes, you might have the majority, but you still have to consider the values and the viewpoints of the minority. I will make a quick point here and I'll turn it over to Dr. O'Malley. I read Barack Obama book, The Promised Land. That book, he documented his presidency and all the challenges he had with in the White House. There were some Republican groups at times when he wanted legislation passed for these people to even sit down and meet with him. They would not. They won't even show up. He will meet with the Democrats, and he will take his time and go to these people. To the point he talks about it in his book, where at times he's going to these people to meet with them. He's having conversation with himself that I know these people. Matter of fact, they don't even like me, let alone wanting to work with me. But he still did. Right? Meaning, in as much you might have majority, you still have to be able to work with other people, regardless of how difficult or how obstructive they could be. You still have to consider their viewpoints. And these are things we learn by watching other democracies and watching other people. But we have a country and people, just because you have the majority, you care less about the other people. The fact that you're able to just pass any law that comes on your book without consulting anybody because you have the majority, you ignore the minority group in a house. This is not how democracy works. This is now I understand why Yeke was always angry. Sometimes I used to be upset with him, but I too, if I were in a house, I would be upset because it does not make any sense. Dr. O'Malley, let me hear your thoughts.
Well, I keep hearing this is not how democracy works. I think democracy is a dynamic system, and it's perceived differently by different school of thoughts, including those who are in charge of dispensing the importance of democracy. Even where we are right now, I know what's going on right now. Okay? Too many things are happening, and other people turn their blind eyes. And okay, someone decide, okay, saying you don't want to work with me, then I will work with people who try to work with me. But then the fundamental question now is it good for us? The answer is no. Right? So my suggestion or recommendation to the speaker-elect for him to decentralize some of the community function to the 30 who don't really support, who did not support him. Because for the 3, according to JAR, for the 3 out of 73, that's 30. Okay, so as a matter of peace talk, he can decentralize some of the function to the other guys, to get them to work. In the event, if they say no, they can't work, fine. But what I see here is that if even Musa Berete had won this thing, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to prioritize on a group and get them all the fabulous committee for their own benefit. But it's a good. The answer is no. But that's the type of political environment we find ourselves. You see? Now Koon was illegitimate. Now the vote has legitimized his status. 30 people decided to work with him. Now he got 43 to his advantage. The next thing he's going to be forcing people into submission. So if you decide to stay away and you cannot debate things for the benefit or in the interest of the country, he will go ahead and suspend you because it's by simple majority. So the question now is, does the August work for us? The answer is no. the division is still in the house, even though Koon is the speaker, but the division is still there. You see? So maybe we say this is how the African politics work. Because it's customary, you notice that all over Africa, we have two things going on. We have the imperial presidency. You know, I know, it's everywhere. All right? Except I can be challenged to be giving the opposite story. We have the imperial presidency. If it doesn't come from the president office, it doesn't work. You see? So I think they are also practicing their own form of democracy, I think. But is it good for the nation? No. It's adding to the fragmentation? Yes.
Exactly, and that's the point you just made. And as I always said on here, politicians will always do what politicians do, right? For them, they are playing the game as it is in their favor, right? The people that suffers are the citizens who voted for these people, right? For all they care, Koon could be doing what he's doing because, hey, if I become a speaker, there are certain privileges that align me with the president. There are certain incentives, right? But as you said, how does the nation benefit from this? What does that even mean for progress in our democracy? It doesn't.
But to be frank with you, Mr. Carter, if you had the opportunity to interview Speaker Koon right now, Speaker Koon will tell you, say, there's no problem. We are working, we are moving on, and things are fine. That's what he's going to tell you. You see? So what I'm saying here is that people are always in denial of the problem, the actual problem. You see? Now we've been crying and saying that there's a need for His Excellency to reconcile the country. But this is just, but that aspect, it is relatively new. It will even disenfranchise the rest of us. At the end of the day, we become very vindictive at each other. We may not see each other face to face. We'll undermine each other. You see, this is how dirty it becomes. You see, this man is a speaker today, but can he be a wise speaker to use? Because as Mr. John said, the committee, because if he tried to take the guy off all the committees and only give it to his supporters, that's going to be a serious problem. You see, so he need to work his way in that era for the sake of peace and for us to move forward as a nation.
But so now the question for the two of you is, what kind of speaker do you expect Mr. Koon to be? Let me start with you.
For me, to be honest, it goes back to what I said earlier. You cannot fix what was already rotten from the beginning. The way he came to becoming a speaker was already corrupt. Regardless of the fact that Speaker Kofa resigned and he, ultimately did the right thing to get elected, he still came to power the wrong way. He literally hijacked the speakership. So in 2 points here, right? What I would do if I was in his case, right, is to try to unite the House. It's already divided as it is.
But what do you think he's going to do?
Right?
What kind of speaker?
That's what I hope he will do, right? He will do, right? You try to unite the House. Yes, there's been a quagmire for the last 7 months.
Like how?
Meaning, sometimes you have, and this is why I'm not caught out for politics. Sometimes you have to be honest when you make a mistake. Like, you have to be blunt and honest. Hey, what I did wasn't right, but we did it for such and such reason. And it has, admit to people that you're human, right? Admit to your flaws and try to unite the people in terms of uniting them behind a purpose, a goal of what you want this house to be. Right? What you want the house to be. In this case, he's aligned with the president. So ultimately, it's going to be the agenda of the president currently, right? But at least try to get people to unite beyond those objectives. That's one. But however, here's what I think he's going to do. Contrary to what I said, here's what I think he's going to do. There won't be any unification in our house, right? If I were him, I know the way that I came to assuming the speakership was illegal. The first thing I would do, I will put a bill on the floor to pass it, to amend that constitution, so that exactly the thing that I did to assume that speakership does not happen to me. And in order for you to do that, you need the buy-in.
That does not need to be in the constitution. It needs to be in their house rules.
Exactly. I will put that on the floor to amend that, so that way I know the way I came to power, somebody doesn't do that to me. Because if you don't, it's only a matter of time before somebody else does that to you. And you're going to need a buy-in for the rest of the speakers. I mean, for the rest of the House, the lawmakers, to pass that rule, right? That's what I would do. But I don't think he would do something like that. This guy, I think he's all hell bent on answering to the whims of the president and what the president wants. And I think this is where he will get so concentrated on that, and somebody will eventually come in behind him and do exactly what he did to assume the speakership. So it's going to be as usual. Nothing's going to change.
Thank you, Dr. Malley. We've already seen at least 2 or 3 months of Speaker Koon, right? Even though they were divided, but he was actually functioning as a speaker in his own right. Based on what you saw within a few months, what do you think going to change now that he's been legitimized?
Well, first thing, I think Speaker Koon has discovered the secret in the house. And the secret in the house is the number game. So as long as he continues to facilitate the number game, maybe he will continue to be a speaker. But what he did when he was not a speaker proper, up to the time he resigned and went into the race, I saw 3 things happening. He was forceful. He did not babysit. And I see him moving to do some things.
Give example of what he did that tell you what he's going to do going forward.
Speaker, and he did not wait for the executive to come and give him the office. He took over the speaker parking space and exercise authority to do those things. He was able to pass the budget that was given to him by the executive with the blessing of the Supreme Court and the Senate as well. So I saw him moving. I saw him doing things. But to your question, what kind of speaker I expect him to be? I expect him to be a liberal speaker. Yes, rather than an authoritative speaker. That's what I expect him to be. And the reason for that is in twofold. One, if he is a liberal speaker, he will extend hands of cooperation to the other guys and let them reason together for and on behalf of the country. But if he becomes authoritative, he's going to draw the line. And that means either you work with him or you get out of the house. Would that jeopardize the unity we are talking about? Yes. Will it also remove him from office? No, because it will help to consolidate his office.
Thank you. So do we actually believe that the movement that we saw, was it based on any ideology? Was it based on any party affiliation, or based on the affinity or the trust in Koon's leadership? What do you think is going to keep the group around him together or still supportive of him?
Listen, I think if I don't think there was any, to answer the first question. I don't think there was any ideology in terms of, again, when I talked about unifying the rest of the House of Representatives. That's what I was talking about, right? The mean you get people to buy into your ideology. This is what I want to do, and this is what the other speaker wasn't doing, right? I don't. There was no, head or tails about what Koon wants to do as a speaker, right? That's one. The other point here, what was it? Sorry, what was your second question?
No, what I mean is, what do you think is going to do to keep that group together? Because if the group was, let's assume that this group was bribed, meaning he got to keep giving them money. Let's assume this group follow him because they believe in his leadership ability to be House Speaker. That means they're going to be watching for those things that they expect of him. And if he's not doing that, they're going to back out. So my question is, what do you think he's going to do to hold on to the majority that he has that voted for him today?
There's nothing he's going to do, because I don't think he has that in him. He doesn't seem like an individual who is very well, eloquent, or is driven by some kind of fundamental ideology. I think basically the same thing that, maybe got Kofa to power, the same thing, which is pay people to stay loyal to you. And once that source dries out, that means everybody defects. And that's what I said earlier. It's just a matter of time. Yes, you might have, a source of cash coming in to be paying people off to support you, but how long can you keep that up? This wasn't driven by any ideology or any kind of agenda of what you want to do as a speaker, or what you think this country should be going, or how the House of Representatives should be handled or should be led, that actually got people to coalesce around you. This was fundamentally you coming, hijacking others and then paying them off to support you. For what reason? I don't think some of them even knew what they were supporting. It was just the enticing of money that drove some of them to support them. So I don't think there's anything fundamentally that will keep people behind this guy to continue to support him. It's just the cash. Once that source dries out, defection, and as I said, the next person will come and do the same thing.
Dr. Mali, the same question. What do you think he's going to do to hold his group together?
Well, as long he continues to fulfill his obligation to ensure that there's this regular flow of financial handout, the group will continue to hold together. But in the event where the financial handout dries out, maybe he will find other strategy. But for now, the committees are playing a vital role to keep the group together. Because I want to believe strongly some of them are well placed in very good committee right now. And that can even account for some of the financial handout, because it's not easy to get this committee. So that's the fallback position. But how long it's going to continue? Well, we have to leave that to history and see.
But if you believe that the money is going to, they've been given money to, as long as we have budget, that may never dry out, right? As long as you have, because the money is not coming. If I will agree with you that money is the one that is influencing them, as long as we continue to have the national budget, where the Senate or where the legislators are, taking their money from, how is it ever going to dry out? If we have $800 million budget, and you are taking 80% for salaries and benefits, and it's going to be that way, how is it ever going to dry out? Or are you saying somebody else may come with more money?
Well, I think we need to retrospect a little bit. During snow time, when the Taiwan issue came up, Helen Johnson was against it. And Snow rise up and he decided to build a financial fortress for all his supporters. But I think it wasn't enough, because money itself has its own secret and it has its own spirit. The more you get, the more you want.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, Snow took his exit. And the same thing happened to Tyler. But for Tyler, I think they went through the voting process. So what we're seeing here is that in that much, they will have to find means to prop the budget and to keep up with the financial handout. He's going to stay in power as long as it takes.
And that takes me to the other side, right? The most ability voters, right?
Yeah.
Ta Wonkwe, Rui Barry, Sumo Moba, Samuel Enders, Frank Safoko, Yeke Koluba, Edward Flomo, Munka Kamara, Abu Kamara, Jerry Yogbo, Dixon Sibo, Bernard Blue Benson, Marvin Cole, Eugene Colley, and all of them. We're looking at the Koon side, but what about the ability side? What do you think is influencing them to be with ability? Is it because they believe in the rule of law? Is it because
diabolical question? That's a diabolical question.
Yeah. I think, Mr. Jah, this a little bit tricky and psychological. I think there are three things at play right now. Either on the basis of comradeship, or I will just be with you. But the issue of ideology, I have never seen it in the Hudson 1847. No, I have not seen it. So it's not on that basis. All right.
Thank you.
And the popular opinion in Liberia is that Berete is one of the richest men. You hear it all over the place. So the question now is, why he fell short to put up all the huge financial cash to win some other guy over? So I think from my own assessment, I think finite is not all to it. Because the list that you just the name you just put up from the Berete side, I think these are just committed few who claim to be the agents of law and order and the architect of rule of law and due process. All right. So the question now is, do they really believe in due process and rule of law? I don't think so. They are not driven by that. Not at all. You see? Because their activities reveal that they even violate more rule of law and due process than any time in our history. They both group. So they are not driven by that. They are using it as a slogan, probably to confuse the ordinary Liberian out there.
And you see some names from the CDC regime, people like Francis Afoko, like Dixon Sibo, and these guys. Do you think it's rule of law that is influencing them?
So, Dennis, let's. Sometimes when you ask tough questions, to answer, you gotta break it down piece by piece. So let's do that. What ideology do you think Musa Belete discussed with those on his list, the supporters that got them to support him? I bet there's nothing, right? Let's go back to the second question. What do you think caused everyone that was in the ANC camp and some from the CDC camp to jump on board to this new party that he just formed? Was it ideology or his commitment to the country or what he's going to do for the country when he wins? No, I don't think he has it in him. They don't believe. I don't even think they believe that he will even come second or even third in a presidential run. Right? Here's the point that I'm getting to here. And you see it here in the West. When you make money, usually what you want to come with that is power. Right? There are few people who have money and want to remain just quiet, under the radar, not noticing, unassuming. But for most people who have money, without wealth, the next thing is power, right? And this is what Musa Belete is after, right? Yes, let's give it to him. He has a little bit of money. But with that, he wants the power that comes with it. Or else he could have remained in business and continue to do business and say, you know what? I will do what a great businessman does, which is play right in the middle. I don't take side of which politician comes to power. I just stay right in the middle, be a centrist for the sake of my business interests. But when you have money, eventually what you want is the power that comes with it. And if most people, if they're not getting noticed, they will take it, such as the Trumps, the Peter Thiel we have in this country, the people that are supporting Trump to come to power, right? That's the same thing we're having with Belete. So to answer your question, all of those people you're seeing on his supporter list are not people that are there because they believe any ideology that he has to unite the country, or when he wins, this is going to be a monumental change or shift in the country. These are people who are just being paid off. Where there's money, most politicians go in Liberia. Please take your time. Say you go run. Let's throw a $1 million budget behind you. By the time you get into Liberia, you have a whole buses waiting for you. People that you never know from anywhere supporting you. Maybe some of those people in his camp will defect. So I rest my case.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. We are analyzing the election of Speaker Koon today that went down at the Capitol building. So, what do you think Speaker Koon is going to do to avoid what brought us this far? Do you think he's going to look at, for instance, you hinted on that already, the rules? For instance, they should have outlined first how to remove a speaker. It was not clear. How to vote. Is it by referendum? Is it by how to vote people out? Where to actually meet? Because their contention is, hey, we can meet anywhere. So they went to the hotel and there they were meeting. How do we get somebody out? Yeah, we have to tell, but how do we do it? They said, well, we did it by resolution. People wrote their names down. How do we compel? How does the minority compel people to come back if the minority cannot convene because of the lack of quorum? And what are some of the policy changes that can be made, even amendments to laws? What do you think Koon is going to do so that we don't end up to the same place? Because this removing speaker has become like, every now and then. And Mr. Fonati Kofa did not take that into consideration when he took office. He was still operating by the old rules. And those old rules have so many loopholes. Do you think Koon is going to focus on those to avoid repeat?
Let me take a stab at this, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Malik. As I said, like you said, I've said here earlier, if he was somebody smart, the first thing you would do, if you come through a hole, first you'll close that hole to make sure the next thief doesn't come through that hole. If he was smart, that will be the first rule. That will be the first order of the day. Guess what? I came here illegally. Let me fix that to make sure the next person doesn't remove me like that, or else it would just be a matter of time, right? That's one. Two, like all those things that you outlined, and this is why sometimes I ask. You might say, Gabriel, you don't have to be a lawyer to become a lawmaker in Liberia, because sometimes all it just takes is logical thinking, like you're doing. Some of those things that you're paying attention to, as a speaker or as a lawmaker, when you go home, what keeps you up at night? Like, do you even think about your role and what impact you have each and every day, right? And just as you have just elaborated in terms of those incidences, if anybody was somebody smart in our house, those are the things they will lay out. This is what held us hostage for 7 months. How do we make sure that the next person that gets removed, there is a process articulated, well outlined, that there will be no confusion how this is done, right? Those are the things you're supposed to do. Put those in a rule book and amend it. And as I said, always this is a living and breathing document. There will always be somebody who will find a loophole and continue to
Dr.
amend
Malik.
it. Yeah.
Well, you see, leadership varies, and there are different leadership style. The path the guy took, they benefited from this path. The path of going to the hotel, they benefited. The path of circumventing how a speaker is removed, they benefited. All right. So everything that benefited these guys, they are not going to reform it. No, it's not going to happen. Because it's like they will be piercing their own chest. All right. I'm very sure Speaker Koon has a plan B. Just in case the 43 rise up, he has a plan B. All right. So everything they benefited from during the saga, they're not going to reform it. But as a pragmatic speaker who has been legitimized by his colleague through election, maybe you do it for the future. You do it for future speakers. You see? But I think what those guys are doing right now is they are looking at themselves. They are not looking at future leadership anymore. It's all about themselves. This self-centeredness, that political aggrandizement, I think that the space the guy found themselves right now. So even to go back to the Constitution, to go back to some of the horse rule that they play around, trust me, Ja, I don't think it's their priority right now. No. The priority right now is competition. Oh, they are sitting there. Okay, now we are also sitting here. All right, we're going to prove to them that we are in charge. This is how the African lawmakers see things. You see? So it's going to be like this competition, forgetting entirely about the country, forgetting entirely about passing law. You see? So Berete will be there now with his followers, and Koon will be there with his followers, saying he in majority now. It's a question of exercising authority rather than looking into the future for the benefit of Liberia and for the benefit of the house and the benefit of the house rules. It only takes a pragmatic speaker to do that. But as long as they were able to benefit extensively through the whole saga, they're not going to touch anything. They're going to leave it just like that.
But if they leave it like that, people, as Gabriel said, people will use that same hole to get rid of them.
Okay. If they will use a same hole to get rid of them, one thing I like about the African politician, they have short memory. They have forgotten about Snow and Tyler case. So as long as this man is on a book that you were once a speaker, I think that pleases him. I think that all they want. You see? So even if you want to remove Koon now, he might fight back, but history will tell us that he was once a legitimate speaker through an election. You see? So I think it's all about themselves. It's really not about the country or passing law or the people they represent in a house of representative. I don't think so.
So, Dennis, I have a question for both of you. Why was the removal of Speaker Kofa so important to this regime? Why do you guys think it was so important that they went on this kind of 7-month hostage, technically negotiation until they got this guy removed? Like, was he opposing to some of the legislation, the laws that they were trying to pass? This guy was working with them. He was working with them. He never opposed anything. So why did they go off the limb to this extent, trying to remove him?
Well, first, let's go back to why they are in the house in the first place. Right? Why do people, most of them, want to be representative? That should tell us, so what is the goal? Is it to pass laws that benefit the country? Is it to pass laws that benefit? We are in a country where 80% of the budget is spent on the top 1% in government, right? You have, so what is driving them to be representative in the first place? Is it to serve the people or serve themselves?
It's incentives.
Right. So if we look at it in the first place, we saw that Koon went against Kofa in the election and he lost. And even before that time, what we were hearing was the president was trying to intervene.
Yeah.
Yeke Koluba was one of those who sounded the alarm. We had, allegation of bribery all over the place, or lobby, as they will call it.
Yeah.
Okay. So these polls were unsettled. In what we've seen over the years is people are not voting based on anything. It's either what I benefit now, personally, what, because this person is in my party, so I'm going to vote for them no matter what. This person is part of my ethnic group, I'm going to vote for them no matter what. This person is part of my religion, I'm going to be on their side no matter what. Right? So people are planted. So those who are planted in their position to have Koon as speaker from the Unity Party side, remember now, Kofa, no matter what he was doing, he was still CDC. So Unity Party wanted their own person. So you can even bring gold as long as you are not Unity Party person, we don't want you. Take, for instance, how appointments are done. Is it because people are qualified or because you are part of our political party? So if you want to be minister, if you want to be anything, it's not merely based on competence. It's based on which side you support. So even if Kofa is doing excellently well, you still want your Unity Party person because your goal, what you're aiming at, is not for the betterment of the country. It's just you want your own persons there. I listened to Senator Koga during the senatorial by-election. He said, if you elect me, I'm going to hold the vice president by ear and bring him here. I say, give the man, and in my Koga voice, get him a job, get him a job, get him a job. And what jobs are they talking about? Government jobs, right? So if you are part of our political party, we all get jobs. So since the speakership is a job, let it come to our party, or let it come to somebody who support it. In this case, the UP Alliance. So I think the driver there is we just want somebody from our side and nothing else.
There's no logic to it. There's no rhymes or reason. No legitimate logic in terms of, but just
Because look at the situation, right? Who move over? Did they tell you, including my own representative from District Number 2, Sino County? I tried to reach out to him to say what's going on. But I couldn't get to talk to him on that. His people just took the side they wanted to take based on whatever incentives they have, mainly for themselves. Because if these people were consulting their constituents, if they would go back to their constituencies and say, what do we do here? But I don't think that normally happens. It's just what the person wants, and that's what they will do. And if you have to wait for 6 years before you change them, 6 years, by that time, I'm going to get what I want. Look at Darius DeLong. He got 9 years, so why does he have to be light? After 9 years, in fact, the voters you see here, you may not even see them.
No.
You have kids that are coming up, and all they see is you being flashy. They want to. After 9 years, those that were what?
9, they turn 18.
Those that were 9 years old, they're now 18. They're voting.
Imagine.
10 years old are now 19 years. So you can still raise people that will vote for you and you win. So why do you have to worry about people? So I think that's the driver.
But actually, here is my disappointment. I don't know whether this cut across the rest of the leadership around the world. Representatives are people who are supposed to serve their people, to be in their people's interests, to pass law that will benefit them. But from what I see in Liberia, it's like the representative job have become a career-oriented thing, People are seeing it as a career now, and this is my career. So this baffled me a lot. You don't really need to go to school to become a representative. Look at the criteria, you see. So like what Mr. Jar just said, if you are 9-year-old, by the time you're 18, because one of their objectives here is to keep the people in perpetual poverty. Because when you stay down there 9 years and you get all that money, there are possibility you can use the people as instrument of exploitation to still get another vote and another vote and another vote. You see? So I think that's the end goal. People are no longer in the interest of the people they claim to represent in parliament. It has become a career thing. I go and work and be paid and get so many different cuts and live a better life. While those who voted for you continue to languish in extreme poverty. You see, that's the issue. But here is my question to you, Mr. Jar. His Excellency believe in this transparency and accountability. And if this group, it is claimed that the president support, if the group is not in that direction, how do we compromise these two things? Because that is accounting, I mean, that is auditing business, even trick on some of these things. When the guy said it's about time to audit the House of Representative, you see, I think that's where the whole thing started from. So will the executive remind these people that there is a need for accountability and transparency, something that Kofa started and it had cost him his job?
I mean, that's still, debatable if for any reason Kofa, lost because he wanted accountability or that he wanted audits and all that, right? Because we have seen Kofa has deputy speaker for 6 years. Yeah. And we've seen Kofa has speaker for some time.
Yeah.
Like a year, a year or so, or a little less. So what we saw was he was not holding people accountable. In fact, that's why his own seditions was saying that he's not holding the Bwaka administration accountable. He's not bringing people for hearing. He's not doing all that. So in fact, initially we started hearing that CDC was not supporting. In fact, they saw him as someone who was, putting himself in a position to replace Josh Weir. So in fact, that's why we heard initially, that's why some of the CDC people were not on his side. So the question, and he was, Speaker Kofa came up, he said, hey, they are removing me because XYZ reason. Take, for instance, this is the first time I'm reading a budget. What we usually do is we don't even read the budget, we pass it, and then we go to the hotel, there where we just divide stuff. We'll call this person, hey, we have 2 million for your office, and we'll give you 2 million, but you have to give us back 1 million, right? Or you have to give us back 500,000. He said that's what they were doing, and we didn't see the Kofa now who wants to commit to audit. Mm-hmm. Audits in this government, what we've seen audit in this government is to audit only people from the past regime. We've not, especially when the president wants to remove someone, a 10-year person, he say, hey, let's audit. And while we're auditing you, you are suspended. And at the end, something is arranged, you get a severance package.
And you go by your day.
Go by your day. I mean, if I have to work for 1 year or 2 more years to get 300,000 or 200,000, and I'm leaving and you give me 300,000 so I don't work, and I don't work for 3, which one you think I'm going to take? So I can take the 300,000 and go sit down somewhere in Durugan and operate. 100,000 can do the trick, right? But I want to let me announce that if you want to join the conversation, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-43 791-403 #. But the last thing I want us to talk about here is there are other things that are happening very soon. I want to know what impact what we saw today in the House going to have on these three. Number one, we're going to have another by-election to replace now Senator Koga in Nimba County. We saw how the senatorial election went. In fact, Koga, who was heavily supported by the executive, is part of the majority bloc. We also see that we need one associate justice to be appointed after the chief justice retires. One associate justice will be nominated by the president, and then a chief justice will also be nominated by the president, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think what we saw today play out in the House going to have any bearing? Do we see a foreshadow of what this thing is going to be happening today in the House of Representatives? Gabe.
I'll let Dr. Malik take on that one.
Yeah, because my questions are tough.
Yeah, my answer is yes. Yes, for two reasons. First, we saw how the election went. On a broad daylight, the executive gave its support to this guy, and it even helped to push him across the finish line, right? And it all come down to the number game. The president, the executive need this by-election. They need a by-election. They need a representative into their camp. So they got to find somebody. It's necessary for them. It helped them push a lot of things for them. It also built their strength and capacity in the House. You see? So politically, it's expedient that the executive go after this thing because they will need to build their strength, and so they will need more representatives. So this one representative from Nima is not only for now, but all these things are playing off for 2029. They're setting the foundation for 2029. You see? And back to the Supreme Court, the president will crave seriously to get the Supreme Court nominee through. All right? And it also plus for his legacy that he also recommended and formed a qualified person to occupy the Supreme Court slot. You see? So there is no way the president is going to waste time on that. One is with his purview, he's going to do everything. But the question now is he going to nominate a Unity Party veteran to go down there? Is he going to nominate a liberal justice to go down there? Is he going to nominate a conservative justice to go down there? No. He's going to nominate someone that will be in his lane. You see? That will get him the support when the need arises. Is that what we want? Well, it's politics. It becomes difficult to say yes or no. Because in honor our very noses here, we see what's happening. So even where we are, where we have the greater democracy, these things are playing like this, then Liberia is just zero now when it comes to the kind of analysis.
Dr. Mali, hold your thoughts. Let me bring in our first caller.
Yeah.
Caller, your name and where you calling from?
How you doing, Mr. John? This is Garcon Morway from Chicago, Illinois.
Garcon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the show. I was following your live production today from Liberia. I'm glad that focus on Liberia is actually in Liberia, so that's a great thing.
Thank you.
Bringing us the coverage directly to the diaspora. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Am I just supposed to go on the topic, or are you going to ask questions, or you just want to hear my take on it?
No, I want to hear your thoughts, all the things we've been discussing.
Oh, okay. No, I was calling in regards to the reaffirmation of the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Okay.
I think the whole public, even Mr. Kofa, knew that his speakership was no more after the burning of the Capitol. There's an image where all of them were sitting around in a square at the Capitol when they burned the Capitol. Now, when I say they, I don't know who, the members or whoever that incited it, and let the Capitol on fire. You saw the position where Koon was sitting, where the VP was sitting, and where the Senate Pro Tem was sitting, and where the President was sitting. That is right there show who the Speaker of the Republic of Liberia, or the House of Representatives at that time. Now, I know there has been this long debate about the legality of, constitutionality of, reaching the required number of votes. I think today was great. It was a commendable thing for both Koon and Musa Ability, because Musa Ability, he was not prepared. He did not have enough time, adequate amount of time to campaign for that position. He just went for it.
You think that was by design? That let's do this quickly so we can
keep... we're good. I think everything today that happened was by design, just for peace and unity. Because, once plenary already makes that decision, the House of Representatives, I think that decision is binding. But for the fact that Mr. Koon, Honorable Koon, or Speaker Koon, to sit back from his leadership position, being in line from the presidency, say, okay, let's go ahead, let me put my bill on the table to see if I'm going to get reelected. That was very commendable, because he could have said no. And that fight could have still, it could have been ongoing for a long period of time, because he has the quorum. Like the president said, he will work with whoever has the quorum. And he had it. So there was no need for him to go for election. But the fact that they did it, and looking at Musa ability, how he was moving in the House of Representatives, shaking people's hand, even people that he knew wasn't voting for him, it showed that they want that unity. They want to work together. They want to do the Liberian people work. Because if you listen to his speech, for 7 months, these guys have not been working. It's just one block of one group of people that has been working, but his group, the rule of law cooking, has not been working, because whenever they went, they couldn't meet quorum. They did it for 7 months, and by law, after 5 sessions, you don't have quorum. You're supposed to step aside, but they kept doing it. But I'm glad that it was retested, it was reaffirmed, and hopefully, going forward, all of them can work together and do the work for the people of Liberia. And hopefully they don't take this thing personal, because it's business. It's not a personal thing. Nobody should be getting personal to the extent where we can have a capital that would burn down.
Thank you. Thank you, Gagan.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gabriel, and you can respond to the first one. What do you think now becomes of the investigation of the Capitol building fire, for instance? How going forward, you think they're still going to pursue this, or since Kofa now has resigned, they're going to release his people and we'll return to business as usual?
In my Donald Trump voice, I think that was a witch hunt, a political ploy to intimidate. It was just meant to intimidate Kofa. As you can see, since the quote unquote investigation was done, we haven't heard anything about it.
I think those guys are still in jail, though.
They will get released. Just watch. They will get released, because I don't think it was something legitimately they wanted to investigate. This was all an intimidation tactics, and it speaks to the whole process that we witnessed over the last 7 months of how the length to which these guys went to just to remove someone, you know. So, to answer the question quickly, I think, legitimately, if this was an investigation they actually wanted to do, this is the time for them to carry out the investigation. Now that they have the speakership, to say, okay, we have the speakership, we can carry out the investigation to really see what actually happened to the fire, and exhaust this investigation. But I doubt this is going to happen. I doubt this is going to happen. Absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Mala, you think this was part of the negotiation before today? Or you think they're still going to pursue it? Because we still have other cases that have not been pursued. I remember Tua was cited, and in things. I still remember other cases that have not been touched. And probably this is the only fire case that is in court. The rest of the fire incidents that happen across the country, there's no investigation.
Well, it's not only the fire issue, but of late, I've got to realize that there are too many inconclusive investigations ongoing in Liberia. The starting will be fine, but in the middle, things just disappear, and people are just fine with that. But here is my take. I think there should be one of the challenges of the rule of law caucus group to take on the Koon administration now, since they are the rule of law caucus group and believe in due process. I think they need to take the Koon group to task to ensure that the investigation is held, is conclusive, and those who will be found guilty face the weight of the law.
So you want the fashions to continue?
Yeah, I think if the fashion continue, I think Koon will work. I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think the fashion, if they are not there for their own personal gain, they can get Koon rather moving in so many directions, and people will rather admire them.
Let's conclude. Dave just said there should have been a compromise candidate, but unfortunately the status quo prevails. During the Liberian Civil War, some of us thought that the warlords have divided and destroyed the country, and in order to bring about reconciliation and justice, none of the actors should head the nation. That motto was defeated and warlords were rewarded. Our nation is worse than ever before. The wounds and divisions remain. Now we have another division in the country and we are going nowhere. So, this issue of fresh speakers, someone new, someone neutral. I like how Dave put it, like, we say, the people that fought, none of them should be leaders. Now in the House, you say the two factions, none of the two factions should have to be speaker. But we don't win that way anytime we try. Gabriel, let's conclude.
No, I think you alluded to that. Actually, you mentioned that at the beginning of the show that you wish a third party or third candidate could have, emerged and, who could have been, not just a tiebreaker, but, take advantage of this opportunity to end this divide that's, exists with these two rule of law and majority bloc. And I agree with Jad. That's, that would have been the ideal, step or the ideal outcome that, I think most of us would have celebrated. I think most people would have celebrated, as a matter of fact. But this too, as they say, is Liberia. And I agree with them. The country, since we came out of war, we've just been on this. For some of us who are just getting acclimated to the politics of Liberia and how things plays out, and you tend to go back in history and trying to read why we are the way we are. Like, you see what is happening, you go back and you say, okay, now it makes perfect sense why the country has not developed, why we remain this stagnant country. So absolutely, I don't think we're going anywhere soon. And to top this off is the unintended consequences that we're not seeing, that we not think about. And this is why I think, sometimes the fact that Koon won, or, he could have speak to that, or somebody could have spoken to that, or somebody, not even if you don't speak to that, you could have made note of that. This ongoing confusion fight started with Kofa, it went on with Koon. This is, every time we publish these articles out there, these are articles that are on the internet. People see them. Potential people, investors that we want people to come to invest in the country. People see these articles and they're looking at you play out in front of you. You want to have a democracy, but you have a pseudo democracy that is not functioning. And people are seeing this thing. What make you think any investor will want to put their dollar in your country? Or they will look at these things that are playing out and they would take their money that they hard-earned money and say, okay, I'm going to go invest in Liberia, knowing that Liberia cannot even solve a dispute in the house. What make you think if I come there's a contract dispute that this matter will get resolved quickly? We're not looking at these unintended consequences. All these guys care about is, the little bit of crumbs that they will be getting from this budget. That's all they care about. Forgetting to know that if we have a functioning democracy, there could be a lot more. We could go a lot further than these little crumbs that they're collecting from the budget, for which they're literally going at each other's throat. So there are intended consequences that nobody's talking about from an investor standpoint, and for a president who apparently talked about wanting to build a country. You love Liberia. You think Liberia, you build Liberia. That's not how you love Liberia. That's not how you build Liberia. And that's not how nobody in their right mind wants to think about Liberia. Yeah.
Dr. Mala, you're closing.
Well, we continue to say, if we had a neutral person, it would have helped to neutralize this thing and bring about unity. But there's nobody neutral in this whole saga. This saga, the horse is being run on factual basis right now. Nobody is neutral down there. If even a leader had won, it's going to be the same thing. The leader are going to come from a certain camp. You see? So my only prayer here is that our constitution need to be changed. The horse rule will need some patriotic representative who will really sit and put Liberia first. Look at the horse rule. Look at the criteria that bringing representative to power. And there's a need for the people to even attend more workshop to see this thing as a service rather than as a job. But by and large, I think the former speaker, Kofa, I think he disappointed me in the sense that if he knew his plan B was to resign, so why he decided to carry on such a Herculean tax for almost 7 months? Why? If he knew the bottom line was, oh, I will resign. Did he orchestrate this thing to say, oh yes, it was finally declared that I'm the speaker? Is that what he wanted? It was finally proclaimed by the Supreme Court that he got a renegade. Is that all he needed? For me, I was disappointed. You see, and I was disappointed on 2 grounds. First, he tells me that he doesn't have that strategy to make sure to exercise his authority as a speaker. Yes. And so he resigned out of frustration. He resigned out of frustration because when he won the speakership, he made a statement. He said, it's about time for the House to get together. All right. So I thought he had a plan. I thought he had a master plan to get the House back together. So there was lack of strategy. There was lack of innovation. He was not pragmatic. And so I felt quite disappointed when he resigned because that was a defeat in itself.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first I want to say thank you for your time tonight and want to thank our viewers for watching. Always follow Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. And just in case you don't know or you have not paid much attention, Focus on Liberia, our vision is to be the most educative and informative media institution that fosters knowledge and curiosity about Liberia. Our mission is to create a more enlightened and informed Liberian society that attracts the world. Our core values being truthfulness, accuracy, credibility, fairness, and respect. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, whether you voted for Koon or Musa Belete, or you think any of or none of them should be speaker, we are all Liberians. Let's do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.